Picture this. It's August 3rd, 2026, in Yosemite National Park. A guy turns to his wife, says he's just going to grab some water from a stream right nearby. He walks maybe 10 feet, steps behind a boulder, and literally vanishes into thin air. Welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're totally tossing out normal search and rescue statistics because we need to unpack a chilling series of real-world disappearances that completely defy conventional logic. We're going to look at a deeply unsettling phenomenon happening right now in our wildest landscapes and break down the genuinely baffling data behind it all.
So, to really understand this, let's dive into that Yosemite vanishing.
We're looking at a brand new, highly specific incident involving a 34-year-old man from California named Michael Torres. He was hiking with his wife Sarah on Yosemite's famously beautiful mist trail. It was 2 in the afternoon, the weather was completely clear, basically a perfect day in the park. But what's truly terrifying here is the sheer proximity. Sarah was actually filming on her phone at the time, and Michael was in the shot. He spoke these exact last words: "I'm going to get water from that stream." Then he walked behind a boulder just 10 feet away from her. 10 feet. That's barely the length of a small car. And in that impossibly short distance, something entirely inexplicable happened.
Now, look at how incredibly fast this timeline unfolds. It brutally illustrates how quickly someone can completely disappear without a single trace. At 2 p.m., Michael steps out of sight. Just 10 seconds later, Sarah calls out his name and gets absolutely zero response. By 3 p.m., 911 is officially called. What followed was this massive operation. We're talking 200 searchers, helicopters, canine units, the whole shebang. Yet, just 5 days later, the official search was called off. This is where it gets genuinely weird. What searchers actually found, or I guess what they didn't find, left investigators completely baffled. They found Michael's hiking shoes sitting right there on the trail, but the laces were mysteriously still tied. His cell phone was located 50 feet away, totally fine, still holding an 80% charge. And there were absolutely zero signs of a struggle. No blood, no torn clothes, no footprints leading off into the brush. But honestly, the strangest part? The search dogs tracked his scent for exactly 20 feet and then just stopped. The trail inexplicably evaporated, almost as if he simply ceased to exist on the ground.
Now, as crazy as that sounds, it brings us to the broader missing 411 phenomenon.
Michael's story is deeply unsettling, but the true horror is that it absolutely is not an isolated tragedy. It's actually part of a staggering, systemic mystery documenting by researcher David Paulides. He spent years meticulously documenting similar cases that standard park statistics just can't explain. I really want you to let this massive number sink in for a second. 1,400. That represents over 1,400 documented cases of people vanishing from national parks in ways that make zero sense. Paulides has scoured historical records, park archives, and contemporary news reports to put this together. And to be clear, we are not talking about unprepared people who wander off a trail and get exposed to the elements. We're talking about highly unusual vanishings that share virtually impossible similarities.
So what exactly is it? Well, the missing 411 phenomenon, as defined by Paulides' research, categorizes these 1,400 missing cases where individuals vanish, leaving behind either incredibly bizarre evidence, like perfectly tied shoes, or absolutely no physical trace at all. To really grasp the scale of this, let's look at how 2 completely different, yet equally bizarre cases from the summer of 2026 compare. Over in Yellowstone, an 8-year-old boy vanishes for 15 minutes while picking berries. He's found 3 days later an impossible 11 miles away. He's barefoot, right? But he has no scratches, no dehydration, and claims an old man gave me candy and walked me here. Okay, then look at the Appalachian Trail. A woman hiking with her dog just vanishes. 2 days later, her dog returns alone, utterly terrified, and aggressively refuses to ever go back on that trail. The woman? She's never found. So you've got 2 different locations, 2 totally different demographics, both completely defying logical explanation. So how do we make sense of this? Let's look at the 7 strange patterns Paulides found. By analyzing these 1,400 cases, Paulides isolated specific patterns that show up almost every single time. First up, clusters. These aren't random. They happen in geographical hotspots, with Yosemite actually being one of the biggest. Second, weather changes. Literally the exact moment someone vanishes, sudden, severe weather like fog or snow hits out of nowhere, which severely hinders rescue efforts. Third, bodies found weird. If victims are found, they're often missing shoes, have their clothes on backwards, or are located miles from where they could have logically walked. And fourth, no evidence. No blood, no tracks, no signs of an animal attack. It's like they were physically lifted straight up from the environment.
Now, check out this statistical anomaly, because this is wild. When you look at all 1,400 cases, a massive 80% of victims share this incredibly strange commonality. At the exact time of their disappearance, they were either near water, like a river or lake, or they were picking berries, just like Michael Torres getting water from a stream, or that 8-year-old boy in Yellowstone picking berries.
And rounding out our 7 patterns, we have the complete failure of search tools and human memory. Pattern 6 is that trained canine search dogs completely fail. They don't just get confused, they track a scent for a short distance and then completely lose the trail, exactly like in the Michael Torres case. And the 7th pattern? Memory gaps. The very few people who actually survive and come back remember absolutely nothing about the time they were missing.
With facts this strange, we really have to look at the competing theories.
Because human nature demands an answer, right? But when we map the most popular theories against the actual evidence, things don't really add up. Natural causes, like falling in a sinkhole or getting lost, is the standard assumption. But come on, that doesn't explain neatly removed, fully tied shoes or bloodhounds just giving up. Animal attacks by bears or mountain lions are proposed a lot, but searchers find 0 animal tracks or blood. Then you have the more fringe stuff. Some suggest government cover-ups involving secret park experiments, though obviously there's 0 direct proof for that. And finally, portals or UFOs remain a massively popular online theory because people report seeing strange lights, but again, that's an entirely unverifiable paranormal explanation. The physical evidence constantly contradicts the most logical theories.
And honestly, the most terrifying part might be what the authorities say. Even the highest experts, the people who know these woods better than anyone, are at a loss. The National Park Service themselves officially admit they are completely stumped by these cases. When 1,400 people vanish and standard protocols give you 0 results, we don't have an answer, is a pretty chilling thing to hear.
So, considering all of this, let's talk about how to actually stay safe out there.
Because these cases are actively happening, we just talked about 3 from 2026 alone, you have to take actionable steps to protect yourself. The goal of this explainer isn't just to fascinate you or creep you out, but to make sure you're prepared. Stick to the buddy system, literally never go into the deep wilderness alone. Always tell someone back home your exact location and your route. And finally, carry a whistle and a reliable GPS device. If a sudden fog rolls in or you just get turned around, having tech and a noisemaker is absolutely your best chance at being found before you become one of these statistics. Real quick, we also want to take a second to remind everyone that the Michael Torres case from August 2026 remains completely open. He has family waiting for answers. Yosemite Rangers are actively seeking any information regarding his disappearance on the Mist Trail or frankly any information regarding other missing 411 cases.
When you look at the whole picture, the perfectly tied shoes left on the trail, the highly trained canines hitting invisible dead ends, the bizarre 80% correlation with water and berries, and the 1,400 lost souls documented by David Paulides, the logical mind just struggles to process it. So, as you pack your bag and lace up your boots for your next hike into the vast unknown of our national parks, we have to leave you with one haunting question to consider.